Welcome to the class. Today we are talking about why good advisors lose seminar sales that they really should have closed. My name is Sole Rad, and I'm a $1 million producer from Beverly Hills, California. My average case size is about $750,000. Average close ratio is about 50%. And when I do seminars, I get really good responses, around 40%, sometimes even up to 60%. What I find is a lot of men are doing their seminars in a way that is really backwards. They're overeducating, they're trying to bully and manipulate people to sign up for an appointment. And I figured I'd do this class to give some of my secrets away because I really love helping other men. I remember when I was new to the business and I really struggled. I didn't have any mentorship and I was constantly trying to figure it out by myself. And I made myself the promise that if I became successful one day, that I would do everything I can to help other people so that they don't get stuck in the same places I did. Today, in this class, I'm not going to be telling you how to use your scripts. I'm not going to be talking to you about how to become more salesy. I'm not going to talk to you about how to have better slides. And definitely, I'm not going to be talking to you about how to buy more leads. Today, I'm going to share with you three super important tips that helped me go from a $500,000 annual income to $1 million annual income by becoming more emotionally intelligent, by having a better sense of how my prospects wanted to interact with me as a man. And I started to use these very tools to supercharge my seminar sales. So let's get started. I want to first talk to you about who you are presenting to. If you're in the business of financial and retirement planning, your average prospect has worked over 14,400 days of their life, hoping that one day they will have the freedom to do what they want to. And the person that is in between their current space and their freedom is you, the financial advisor. And these people, when they come to see you, when they come to your seminars and your presentations, they're not just evaluating your intellect. In fact, with today's AI and internet, most of your prospects are way smarter than they were 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. So, what they're evaluating you on is not just information, they're evaluating the person that you are, the human being. What do you stand for? What kind of integrity do you have? What is your behavior like? And who am I giving my entire life savings to so that I can rest assured at night that I will be safe? So, what I'm going to be talking to you about in this class is how to become the man who really deserves and attracts this type of a prospect to give you their entire life savings. Now, let me tell you something. Most financial advisors, the average case size is about $150,000. I remember when my case sizes were about 150, 250, even $350,000, I would get so excited. I would celebrate that I closed the case. But at that level of case size, you will never, ever scale your firm. In fact, I've seen men who try to scale their company by doing more and more small leads, and they all end up in the same place: burnout. I've been there, I've tried it, it doesn't work. The only way to scale your firm as a financial advisor man is to actually become a better man, someone who can attract case sizes that are way higher than the average in our industry so that you can have above average results. So when you start to close cases that are 500, 600, $700,000 in size, what starts to happen is you start to recognize that for every one client that you close, others are trying to close 5 or 6 clients. For every one client that you do an analysis for, others are doing 5 or 6 analyses. And for every client that you're doing a follow up, others are doing 5 or 6 times what you're doing. So, this is the way that you're going to be able to scale your company, not by working harder, not by having more leads. Of course, more leads are great, but it's the quality of the leads, it's the quality of the advisor that determines the success. So let's get started. I want to talk to you about why good advisors lose seminar sales that they totally should have closed. Number one reason is you are likely not preparing yourself, and instead you're preparing your slides. And what I see all the time is good advisors go in the room, they're really depending on the presentation to carry them, and they are not ready internally. Their voice is cracking, their body language is completely a mess. And even worse, the way you dress. Guys, if you're dressing unlike $1 million advisor, the first thing the client is thinking is, would I give my $1 million to this man? And let me tell you something funny. Most guys might not know this, but women have a secret. And women always recognize the quality of a man, the success of a man, the cleanliness of a man based on his shoes. And I tell you how often I see men in financial services with scruffy, dirty shoes. That's the number one way that a client or a prospect can tell if you're actually a wreck in your personal life. And let me remind you that somebody who's willing to give you 14,400 days of their life, they're really evaluating you not on the income riders, not on the asset allocation portfolio theory that you're putting together, because honest to God, your prospects don't even understand those things. So, how could they ever evaluate you on something that they know nothing about? So, what prospects do is they start to rely on their other senses. They start to look at you and their antennas are heightened. They're evaluating you on your body language, they're evaluating you on your voice, on your posture, on your dress. How are you interacting with your assistant? What do you do when somebody gets up in the middle of the seminar and causes a distraction? How do you respond to that? You see, this is something that your prospects can evaluate. And in fact, they overweight their evaluation on these things because their understanding of your expertise is nowhere enough for them to get a good read on what you know. They're looking at who you are. So what I like to say is that your audience can totally feel your energy and they know when you're pretending. So, my first tip to you is prepare yourself before you enter the field. If every seminar room is worth millions of dollars to you, how much time and energy do you spend before sending yourself into the field? I protect myself completely. I go into a room where no one is allowed to come into, and I do at least a 10-minute meditation. I even do jumping jacks. I get my body prepared. I'm doing my gratitudes. I'm actually in there praying. And I know that this is a performance of my life. This is not just a presentation. So the more you prepare yourself, not just right before the event, but really way before, what is your mindset? How are you preparing yourself emotionally? Are you preparing yourself in terms of how you dress and how you look? Or are you walking in like you're in a drive through and trying to get somebody to pay you millions of dollars? And this level of intentionality really, really translates into the room. I remember when I used to overly rely on my presentation and I would try to cut corners with my energy, with my mood, with my nervous system being prepared. And almost every single time, my close ratios were way lower, even though I had the perfect presentation. And I started to realize that the energy I give off, the perception I'm giving off with the nonverbal cues, it's actually the biggest indicator of my success. Let's go to item number two. Here's something that I see often, especially with men. Guys, you should not be doing informational presentations. You need to be doing transformational experiences. Let me tell you, your prospects are dating more than just one guy at a time. They've been around. They have talked to other advisors. It's likely that they've also had other financial advisors throughout their life. And now the stakes are at their peak. The client is ready to pull the lever and give over the entire savings that they have worked for 40 years. This person has likely skipped their children's birthdays, bar mitzvahs, funerals because they had to work with some really annoying boss just to get this money. And now you are the person who's asking for it. So let me ask you, what kind of a experience are you providing me as your customer? Are you just sitting me down and rushing me through some highly intellectualized presentation? What impact are you providing for me right at the beginning of when I enter the room? What I like to tell people is that your seminar starts way before they even arrive. It's how they receive the invitation. What kind of a confirmation are they receiving? Where are they parking? And how are they entering the room? Do you just leave the doors open for anybody to sit anywhere they want? Or are you like a exclusive? Are you like a highly rated restaurant? Think about if you enter a Michelin star rated restaurant. Do they just let you sit anywhere you like and allow you to do whatever you want? No. So if you're operating like a Michelin star rated financial advisory seminar, what you're looking at is how do I curate the client experience from end to end? How am I designing the room? What kind of lighting is in there? What is the musical selection of this space? Let me remind you that music actually speaks louder than your words. I love to play really Spanish guitar music when people are arriving at my seminar rooms. I have my assistant particularly meet them at the front, greet them with their name, and then walk them towards their pre assigned seat, letting them know that we saved this seat just for them. And if there's anything they need, all they need to do is raise their hand, and one of us will be right with them. This level of intentionality tells your prospects way more than your asset allocation strategy. This type of a style of connecting with other humans describes who you are way more than the product selection that you bring to the table. Just like anything else, imagine if you were about to get a heart surgery and I took you into a surgeon's surgical operation room and it was lit with ugly lights. The music was hip hop in the background and there was all kinds of coming and going. And now I just walk in very casually and I start talking to you without really engaging with you. So, how you curate the experience tells the prospect way more about you than any type of presentation. You're not just creating a class, you're creating a transformational experience. Some of the tips I like to share with you is having every part of the experience be a conscious touch point. Having every single part of it be something that is, even if it's small, but memorable. I love to start my seminars with asking everybody in the room to take 3 deep breaths, to close your eyes, to experience why you are here. I like to ask people to think about all those 40 years of work and feel the gratitude inside their heart for what they've already accomplished. You see, when you take the client through a emotional journey, you stand out as not just the smart financial advisor, but the man that they can rely on, the person who is intentional with everything, not just your products and presentations. Let's go to rule number 3. Your nervous system is the one thing that might be losing the sale before you even open your mouth. Listen, most of us men have been taught to be people pleasers. So we try our best to be kind and polite and sweet, and we don't realize how often that we are fawning. You know what fawning is? It's a nervous system response associated with people pleasing. And I see this all the time. Men come up to the seminar room and they start saying things and doing things that are so obsequious that is almost fake. Listen, $1 million clients can smell fakeness, they can smell pretentiousness, they can smell obsequiousness. Is that even a word? From a mile away. They know that you are after their money. So the more anxious you are, the more you come across as a beggar, the more you try to bully them or use pressure tactics or manipulation in the experience, they know that. So, what's the antidote to this? Let me tell you, when I started to work on my nervous system and I started to train my nervous system to have a level of comfort in the most awkward, in the most uncertain, in the most weird spaces, what started happening is it started translating to way more closing in front of my clients. You see, most of us men and women, when our nervous system gets scared, it goes into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. No wonder most guys step in front of an audience and their hands are shaking, their voice is shaking uncontrollably. What are you doing to address that? Do you think that your prospects can't see that? Do you think a prospect is willing to let you take the wheel for another 10 to 20 years of their life if they know that you can't even hold yourself strong and powerfully and confidently in front of an audience of people? How about when the inevitable person in your seminar steps up and starts to make fun or distracts or has some kind of a conflict with you? Most advisors I know, they try to be aggressive or they try to laugh it off. Let me tell you, every single one of these circumstances is actually an opportunity for you to show the audience what kind of a man you are. How do you navigate conflict? How do you navigate uncertainty in live form, not when you're sitting behind your mahogany desk trying to be a financial advisor? I see men when they're at the end of the seminar, they try to rush through the close because they want relief from the tension. I see others becoming like beggars, passive, apologetic, too afraid to ask directly for the appointment. And worse yet, some guys go into becoming a bully. And this is not their fault. It's a nervous system response. They try to pressure, fear, or manipulate the prospect into signing up for an appointment. And let me tell you, none of this works if you're looking to get large clients. Large clients are not just looking for a good financial advisor, they're looking for a man of integrity. They're looking for a guy who actually is confident in himself. He's emotionally available and he's not using manipulation tactics to try to make a sale. In other words, he's fully there and available without fighting, without flighting, and without people pleasing at any level. What I found is that when the audience feels your uncertainty, they become uncertain themselves. And when they feel that you're open, available, authentic, and you're actually being a human being who really cares not just for the presentation, but for the experience, for the human being in front of them, suddenly your close ratios will shoot off the roof. I'll tell you a story. I had a client come into the office once. It was a prospect. She was 60 something years old. I was in my 30s. She put her portfolio on the table. It was stacked. And when somebody brings a big portfolio, usually it means they got a lot of money. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, how do I help this person? How do I get this account? But this one time, instead of going right into talking about investments and finance, I said, talk to me. How is your world? To my surprise, this woman started to launch into a complete uh, it was a complete argument with me about the parking situation, about the this traffic on the way to my office. She was complaining and complaining. And instead of defending, instead of redirecting the conversation, which is what I used to do, I just sat there and listened. My nervous system was shaking, but I was breathing. I was keeping my heart open. When she finished speaking, I said, "Can we take a deep breath together?" She said, "Yeah." We took a deep breath. I said, "How are you feeling in this moment?" Again, she launched into another complaint, started talking to me about how her teeth hurt and how she'd been to so many dentists. She literally got up, leaned across the table, and made me look down into her mouth to see the new crown that she had received while she was telling me how much pain it gave her. I went with it. Until this moment, we still hadn't even talked about money. She talked more about her pain. I listened more. And I said, "Wow, you must be going through a really tough time. I really understand your pain. I can't imagine all this stress. I'm wondering, how are you supporting yourself?" Again, she went into another complaint about her children, so on. 45 minutes passed. Finally, she finished speaking. I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful. I'm just really honored that you're open enough to express all of your feelings with me, and I'm listening to you completely. What I hear you say," and I responded to her in what she had shared with me in a summary format. A tear came down her eye. She took a deep breath. Her shoulders fell. She said, "Enough about me. How do I get you to be my financial advisor?" I said, "What?" She said, "I've never had another man spend this much time to just listen to me without changing the subject, without trying to fix my problems, and without trying to talk about finances when I'm actually talking about my life." She literally handed me her entire portfolio. She said, "Next week when I come back, I need to know where to sign." It was that easy. So, my question to you is, how much time are you spending trying to become more intellectual, more smart, trying to become more refined as some kind of a genius, and instead of connecting with the human beings that are right in front of you, with those who've worked 14,000 days, 14,000 hours just to have somebody hear them? That is what you get paid for. Everything else can be outsourced to ChatGPT. So, if you're enjoying this information and you want to learn more, reach out to me or reach out to my company. I've personally been training men who are in the three to $500,000 income range become $1 million advisors. What it takes to become a $1 million advisor is not just intellect. You need to become a man that people trust with millions of dollars of money. And what that means is you get to be way better in your presence, way stronger in your nervous system, and way more heart centered, to a point where people feel honored to be in front of you. Giving you their money is the least that they can do.